Good afternoon. My name is Jude Meyers. I'm Superintendent of Gallia County Local Schools, and we'd like to welcome you to our monthly broadcast of School Pride countywide. Today, again, I'd like to thank the University of Rio Grande for their willingness to share their TV studio with us. We really appreciate Dr. Johnston and their team and staff and the opportunity to be in this studio and share our story a little bit with our community and all the wonderful things that we're doing in our school system. I also want to reach out to the folks that may have left the district and have them revisit that either via the web page or some of the broadcasts that we're doing. We've done a lot of changes within our district in the last few years, and those changes have resulted in some really outstanding things, whether it be our dual busing, our Chromebook initiative. We're doing some outstanding things with technology. We'd really like to see our families reconnect with us. We started a preschool program that the ladies here are going to talk a little bit about today, that they house in both of their elementary buildings. So we've done some phenomenal things, and we'd really like the community to connect with some of those changes that we've made within our district. We offer a lot of programs. We value the arts. That's something that we made. I know Edie Bostic, on my right, is a member of our art council. We decided to bring back the arts, to make sure we expanded the band and choir in our schools and our music programs. Our art is phenomenal. And we know that a lot of kids come to school not just for English and math, social studies, but it's the arts and the sports and the band and the choir and being in the play. So in addition to the rigor that they get in the classroom, they're getting other opportunities. And I think the other thing, we are on a federal foods program. That means that all of our students eat for free breakfast, free lunch, and we could probably debate school lunches until the cows come home today, but we also know that we have to follow federal guidelines on what we can serve and have to serve in our cafeterias. But the important thing for our families is that they do not have to pay for their kids to have breakfast and lunch in the schools. And because we value the arts and athletics and things, we do not have any participation fees. We think it's really important that kids have a totally comprehensive program where they can not only experience a full academic program, but if they want to explore the arts and they want to explore other things, whether it be athletics or band or choir or the play, we think it's really important, and we don't want to burden our families. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce two phenomenal leaders in the Gallia County local school system. Phenomenal leaders, friends, and people that I've worked side by side with here over the last 3+ years. And I don't think Gallia County is aware of how talented these two ladies are. So I'm going to start with Miss Leslie Henry. Leslie is the principal at Vinton Elementary. I met Leslie when I got here in Gallia County, and she is a very big advocate in the community. She works with our community action group. As we know, there's a drug and alcohol problem with the opioid situation going on. She has taken firsthand to sit on that committee because she knows on a daily basis how that affects our kids. And so she's also taken a leadership role with the program that we've endorsed called The Leader in Me. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Leslie Henry, principal of Vinton. She's also our testing coordinator for the district, and have her tell a little bit about herself.
Okay, just a little bit about myself. I am actually an undergraduate of the University of Rio Grande, not a native to Gallia County, but Gallia County is now my home. I completed my master's in educational leadership at The Ohio University. My teaching career has consisted of 7 years as an intervention specialist, and this is my 8th year as an elementary principal.
And does a phenomenal job as a building leader at Vinton Elementary and a part of our core team here in Gallia County Local Schools. To my direct right, Miss Edie Bostic. Met Edie again when I came here to Gallia County. I should call her Dr. Bostic. She's worked hard in a doctoral program. And what's really neat about the program, and she'll tell you a little bit about that, it had to do with technology, but she helped lead a Chromebook initiative in our district and also with Google Docs. And that's something that our kids, grades 2 through 12, work with every day. And so Edie was one of the ones, as part of her doctoral program, actually came up with that idea with Dr. T.R. Edwards. And they brought that to the district along with Todd Booth and Rochelle Halley and some of our administrative team. And now they have become the experts on training our staff how to use the Google Docs, our students, and again, a tremendous leader. I know she's involved with the 4-H program and network with some of the politicians. So very pleased to introduce, and on the day job, she's also a principal at Hannan-Trace Elementary. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Bostic.
Yes, I received my bachelor's degree from the University of Rio Grande, master's degree from OU, and my doctoral degree from Morehead State. I taught for 9 years in the elementary setting from kindergarten through 8th grade. I was 6 years the Title I and Literacy Coordinator for Gallia County Local Schools, and then the last 8 years I've been principal at Hannan-Trace Elementary.
And we're going to actually start with Edie telling a little bit about Hannan-Trace. Her reputation is as a literacy expert, and she's had several initiatives that she started in her building. One's called ERLA, I'm sure she's going to mention that. Another one she's involved with is kind of an extracurricular, but with our elementary beta program, which is a leadership academic-based program where our kids are getting to compete on a statewide level and getting a lot of leadership skills. So I'm going to give her an opportunity to talk a little bit about Hannan-Trace and all the neat things she's doing with her school.
Okay. Well, one of the things we were going to focus on today is that the initiative that we have started is working to improve our students' reading levels. And we noticed that in 4th and 5th grade, our students, even though they were passing the reading guarantee in 3rd grade, they still had some reading gaps. And so we dug into that, and we figured that we needed to find an assessment that was accurate and did a good job of showing us where those gaps were. And so we found the ERLA, which is the Independent Reading Leveling Assessment through the Great American Reading Company. And so what that allows us to do is our teachers, instead of trying to figure out what's going on with the child, they're able to easily assess the gaps that that child has, and then they're able to quickly find interventions, and then that child then is given a power goal and they work on that. And we have found that that program has really accelerated us being able to bring our students up to the reading level that they should be functioning at. And so, but we've learned a lot in that process. And some of the things that our staff has learned, we have a more cohesive picture of what a kindergartner should be doing as a reader and what a 1st grader should be doing as a reader. And our staff is all working toward those same goals. And then we also have learned that it is very important for our students to be independently reading. And actually that program advocates for an hour of independent reading a day for a child. And they say that the number of minutes a child spends independent reading is the most predictive indicator of how successful they will be later on in life. And so we really encourage an hour a day of independent reading. We do most of that at the school. We try to get 45 minutes a day in at the school, and then we ask that parents do 15 minutes at home. And so we have developed all kinds of incentives for that. And Holzer is sponsoring our bicycles this year. We put all the kids' names in a hat, and at the end of the year, and those who have, well, the more times they bring in a reading log, their name gets in the hat, and so they have more chances for the bike. And so Holzer kind of is sponsoring that for us this year. Also, before, when Jude mentioned our preschool program, before students even start learning to read, they need to, through this program we've learned, they need to have read at least 500 books. And so a lot of our kids come and they haven't quite done that. Through our preschool program, we are getting that accomplished with our kids, but the ones that don't go to our preschool program and maybe they haven't been exposed to those books, we've started a volunteer program where our students, we have volunteers that come in, and we have developed a reading room for them. And actually, Woodyard's in town, the furniture store in there, they donated a couple of couches and some rugs for us, and so we have this nice area for them, and we have volunteers come in and they read good literature to our kindergarten students who are getting ready to learn to read. And also then those volunteers also work with our students that have maybe they don't get a chance to read at home with their parents, so they get a chance to read at school with those volunteers and get their 15 minutes in there. So we have really worked hard to improve that for our kids, because we know that kids have lots of interest, but if they're not able to read by 3rd grade, a lot of times that sets them up to not have a very productive schooling career all the way through, and our goal is that they will leave there able to read. So that's what we've been working on quite a bit over the last 2 years. And as far do you want me to?
Yeah, could you tell a little bit, you mentioned interventions, and like for maybe the typical person viewing this, they may not know what an intervention is.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit, when you say you do these interventions for kids, what that all might involve and what that might look like?
Well, if a child, like, we know that they need to learn, or we have lists of words and things like that with them, or that they're supposed to learn. So we need them to learn these 60 words before they go on to the next, level. And so if they only know 20 of those words, then we will have games and centers that surround those words, and so they will work on that until the next week they come back with that teacher, and then we assess that, and then if they're ready to go, we'll give them more words or whatever. So those interventions are very targeted, and they usually involve working with games and things to make it interesting and fun for the kids. So
it's really interesting. I know, having had the opportunity to be in your building and see the little room that has the couches, and seeing some parent volunteers that were there at the time, it's also a community outreach program.
Yes, it is.
So it's really neat to see, and I think the message that Edie is trying to share is that we try to identify those kids that need the extra help, and we will go the extra mile, whether it be the teacher, the administrator, the parent volunteers, and things. So at this time, we'd like to take a short break. This is School Pride Countywide. My name is Jude Meyers, Superintendent, Gallia County Local Schools. My guests today are Edie Bostic, Principal at Hannan-Trace, and Leslie Henry, the Principal at Vinton Elementary School. This is Jude Meyers, Superintendent, Gallia County Local Schools. We are back with School Pride Countywide, talking about the Gallia County Local School Systems with the focus today on Hannan-Trace Elementary, and our next school, which we're going to talk about, is Vinton Elementary. And to my right, far right, Leslie Henry. Again, I've had the opportunity to work with her, and she's done a tremendous job. Great background with special education, involved with a lot of community outreach programs, also doing a Leader in Me initiative, which she's really gotten a lot of her teachers on board with, and a lot of it is being driven from the trenches by our teachers. So I want to kind of turn it over to Leslie and talk a little bit about her building and all the neat things that are going on out at Vinton Elementary School.
All right. Well, as Mr. Meyers said, one of the initiatives we have going on at Vinton Elementary is the Leader in Me processor framework. It's based on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People work that was done by Stephen Covey. I'm just going to quickly run through what those 7 habits are so you kind of get an idea of the framework that I'm speaking of. One habit is being proactive, and in kid-friendly terms, that is you're in charge. You're in charge of your life and the decisions that you make. Habit 2 is to begin with the end in mind, and that's having a plan, being able to set goals for yourself and your life and your direction. Habit 3 is putting first things first. That is working first, then playing. So that's prioritizing so you can reach the goals that you've set for yourself. The next habit is think win-win, which is everyone can win. The following habit is seek first to understand, then be understood. So that's listen before you talk. So try to understand another person's perspective before you give your input. Synergizing, which is working together, together is better. And sharpening your saw, which is balance feels best. So learning how to balance your life so you can be most effective. And so what we found with many of our students is that along with some of the academic gaps that they come to us with, there's a lot of gaps in their personal lives as well. So as an educational agency and institution, we've had to kind of reprioritize or balance our work and focus with academics, as well as our balance and focus of helping them to become complete individuals. And that is our hope with the Leader in Me program. So what we're doing at Vinton Elementary right now to move ahead with this process is we feel like the change that needs to occur in our building starts with our culture, and it starts with us from the inside out. So we're starting a book study with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with our staff, moving on to a book study in Leader in Me. We feel ourselves that we have to walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to this framework before we move forward with implementation with our students. We want to be able to model and embody this framework ourselves. So as I said, we're starting with a book study with our staff. Staff seems to have really bought into this process. Many times we come to a crossroads where our students are in need of things that isn't really backed up by our background and our educational training. It's those additional gaps that many times they're faced with. So we're hoping that this Leader in Me process and program will help us do that. We're also trying to incorporate site visits, so that's sending my staff out to other buildings who are engaged in the Leader in Me process and framework. So it's visiting those schools to see what this looks like once the process is complete. With my staff this year, I've tried to somewhat model the process of what students will be engaged with at some point in time, and by that I mean we have created many committees within our building, focusing on even just increasing the morale and whatnot in our building, having teachers lead with their own interests. You know, we have many building leaders that really kind of lead our building when it comes to academics. You know, wonderful teachers on staff, but sometimes they aren't the best leaders in some of those academic conversations. However, giving them the opportunity to lead with their interests and their own strengths is something we're trying to build with our staff this year. We're just at the beginning, I guess, of our work with this. Looking forward to where it's going to take us, and as I said, really try to fill some of the holes and gaps that students are faced with coming from difficult situations. So,
and I think it's interesting, as Leslie pointed out, and Edie, it's opportunities for our teachers to lead, and they've empowered these teachers to lead. You don't have to be a superintendent, you don't have to be a principal to be a leader. And then in turn, the teachers are trying to take that same principle and let our kids know you don't have to be a teacher to lead, you can be a student and lead. And so they're trying to take an interest in the kids to find out, what do you want to be when you grow up? And if every teacher had an idea of what that kid wanted to be when they grew up, would that change how you work with that kid every day? If you knew they had a passion for science or social studies or English or music or whatever, if you knew what that light bulb was and you could turn it on every day, I think that's really neat. I'd also like to see, Leslie, if you could comment a little bit. You've developed an interesting partnership with some community-based groups in trying to meet the needs of our kids that are non-academic. If you could share a little bit about that, and maybe your involvement with the community group, citizens group.
For prevention and recovery. Okay, I'll start with one of the partnerships that I've created. It's with God's Hands at Work, which is actually based in the town of Vinton. It's actually catty corner from our school. God's Hands at Work is a service organization that services Gallia, Meigs, Vinton, Jackson, and Mason County. They're an organization that will provide clothing, food, household items for individuals who are faced with hardships. Many times we refer our families to the organizations to provide those additional supports. Our partnership actually began with just my visit to the facility. When they located at Vinton, I just thought, you know, the more supports and services we can put in place for our students, the better. So I just went to the facility, visited, they took me on a tour, and this actually led to the first service I guess, project that we had done in our building that year, which was during Christmas time, which was our Polar Express theme. And we did a pajama drive because we found that many students in the area, or many children in the area, lacked needed clothing. So we thought, being Christmas time and going along with our school theme, we did the pajama drive. That led to our Junior Beta Club also assisting with God's Hands at Work and a food drive that they did. And so those projects that we did over time together really led to the opportunity. They approached us about mentoring some of our students in our school. And so again, when we talk about some of the deficits that our students have and the hardships they face, research will show that, you know, a positive adult relationship can be one of the most powerful influences in the outcome of a child's life. So God's Hands at Work approached us about using our facility to do a mentoring program with our students. We're actually getting ready to kick that program off next Monday, actually, so it's coming up quickly. They provide an after-school program which is just essentially mentoring, building positive relationships, helping students with homework, things of that nature. So again, just reinforcing and having a positive influence on our students. So,
can you also elaborate on your involvement with the community group?
Yes, that's the Citizen for Prevention and Recovery, and so that's just kind of response to the opioid epidemic that Ohio is faced with, as well as Gallia County. So it's a group, we come together, there's many organizations that are involved, individuals of our community, and we just really work together to promote awareness type activities regarding the issue that we're faced with.
So, Edie, one of the questions that probably people out in the listening audience might wonder is now that we have a Chromebook initiative district-wide, how do we use those? Is our curriculum now coming via the Chromebook, or how are kids using their own technology, whether it be a cell phone and books and maybe you know, the Google Docs, and how does that all play together?
Yes, we use Google Classroom is used throughout our 2nd through 5th grade classrooms, and I'm sure 6th through 12 also. Google Classroom is just kind of like Blackboard is at the university level. That's where the teacher houses assignments and links to videos and links to different sites that they want their students to go see. It allows for a lot of independent learning for students so that they can kind of explore their own interests. We worked very hard in our professional development to help our teachers experience the Chromebook experience as a student, so then they would be able to know what that felt like and how excited they got when they were working on some of those projects, so then they could model those kind of things for their students. And as far as one of the questions that came in was about, do we use ebooks on the computers, or do we, you know, have books that they read? We do a combination of those things. It's very important for our kids to hold those books and to turn those pages and to point and do all those things, especially when they're young. But then as they get older, and some we expose them some when they're young, but we do through Google Classroom, we connect them with certain books that we want them to read. So
kind of a combination
yeah,
of
it's
things.
a combo. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our intervention materials, whether it be our Success Maker, Alex, which is a math intervention program, a lot of that is web-based, and our
Right.
kids will use the Chromebooks on that.
Right, and we found that, you know, those programs that we used to invest a lot of money in, and we only had 4 computers in the back of the room, we weren't getting the bang for our buck for those programs at all. But now that we have the Chromebooks and each child has one, it's much easier for teachers to actually integrate technology into the student learning.
And I think the key piece is, we know that when they leave K-12, that technology is going to be a key component in for them to sustain a job. So teaching our kids how to use technology, not just saying, hey, I've got a Chromebook, in a productive way, I think is really important.
Right. In our study, that was the prevalent thought throughout. What we're preparing them for is a world that has technology throughout it, and if we aren't doing that in our schools and teaching, giving them those experiences, then we're really not doing what we need to do. So.
And we know our kids are going to have to compete in a global economy.
Exactly.
And kids that are in India or China or Europe or places like that, via computer, via that skill, are competing for the same jobs that kids from Gallia County will actually be competing for. So having those technology skills built in and integrated into the curriculum is such an important piece.
It evens that playing field for our kids.
And
it was very uneven before. So.
And if you do walk through the buildings, I was in Leslie's building not even a week ago or about a month ago, and here's first grade teachers don't even have Chromebooks, and they're all borrowing them from the fourth graders, so our kids are really involved with that. So we'd like to thank everybody for viewing today. My name's Jude Meyers, Superintendent, Gallia County Local Schools, for this rendition of School Pride Countywide with Leslie Henry, with Edie Bostic. Thank you very much.